of Sri Aurobindo. In the first session, Professor Patitapaban of Revensa University will speak on the story of our species, Sri Aurobindo's view. The second session, Professor Saroj, the Associate Professor of Philosophy, Utkal University, will speak on Sri Aurobindo on Superman. I welcome both the speakers to this program, and with this, once again, I extend my welcome to all the viewers across. Now I request Jyoti Biswas to give a brief introduction on Professor Saroj Kantkar. Okay, over second. Okay.
Am I audible, sir?
Yes, audible.
Thank you so much, sir, for giving me such an opportunity. Good morning, everyone. Today we are fortunate enough to have Dr. Saroj Kantkar, sir, with us, who will speak on the theme Sri Aurobindo on Superman. He is currently serving as Associate Professor in Department of Philosophy, Utkal University. He has worked in various major capacities of teaching, research, and related academic, administrative responsibilities in different institutions since 2005. Dr. Kar has postdoctoral research and PhD and MPhil in philosophy from University of Hyderabad after his MA from Utkal University. His doctoral research was based on Nagarjuna's philosophy. He has specialized in Buddhism and Vedanta. He has studied and taught Indian, Western, and moral philosophy and logic. His recent interest is on applied possibilities of philosophy, critical, creative, and applied research in philosophy and allied areas of study, always occupy priorities to his academic engagements. He also takes up challenges in meeting new frontiers in academics and research. Dr. Kar has some publications to his credit, some of which include 2 books, and some research papers are Sat in Dharma and Dhamma Tradition, Moral Dilemma, The Way Out, Nagarjuna's Reasoning with Non-Implicative Negation, Reformist Religious Tradition in India, Revitalizing the Indian Philosophy by Practice, on Theoretic to Applied Ethics, Revisiting Dharma in Mahabharata, Serving Moral Dilemmas, Buddhist Message towards Attitudinal Crisis on Inequality, towards Future Philosophy, on the so-called conflict between applied and pure logic, and the Jaina, Buddha, and classical Indian perspective of Ahimsa. He was an assistant professor in philosophy at School of Buddhist Studies, Philosophy and Comparative Religion at the University of Bihar from 2008 to 2021. He has been program officer in Indian Council of Philosophical Research from 2011 to 2018 and 2021 to 2022. Prior to it, he has worked in different institutions, namely teaching, politics in MS University of Baroda, research associated in Githam University, project fellow at Center of Advanced Studies in Philosophy, Utkal University, lecturer in philosophy in TN College, Kota. With this, I convey my great to him and welcome him to the ICPS sponsored webinar. Thank you, sir.
Thanks so much, Jyoti, for giving a brief introduction on Professor Dr. Saroj Kantkar, Associate Professor, Utkal University. And on this occasion, I greet both the speakers because both the speakers have joined in 2 universities. Professor Patitapaban has joined in Revensa University, and Professor Saroj Kantkar has joined in Utkal University. So I greet both the speakers, both the professors from the on behalf of Philosophy Department, Balugaon College. And today, both the speakers will speak on the philosophy of Sri Aurobindo. Once the mother said that Sri Aurobindo came upon earth to teach the truth to men. He told them that man is only a transitional being, living in a mental consciousness, but with the possibility of acquiring a new consciousness, the truth consciousness, and capable of living supramental and to help these gathered around him to realize it. So both the speakers will speak on their scheduled topic. Professor Patitapaban will speak on the story of our species in connection with Sri Aurobindo's view, and Professor Saroj will speak on the Sri Aurobindo's view on Superman. Now over to the first speaker, Professor Patitapaban to speak on this. Okay. Thank you, Professor. Respected patron, Madam Binati Manjari Raut, Principal of Balugaon College, Coordinator Dr. Kailash Chandra Maharana, Head of the Department of Philosophy, Balugaon College, and who is always respected for his active participation in philosophical discourses among Odisha. My co-speaker, Dr. Saroj whom I always call as Saroj Bhai with love and respect. I always call him Saroj Bhai, and this respect comes because of his dedication towards philosophy and institution building. And I'm very happy that I'm going to co-chair with him. He's acting as a co-speaker with me today, and all the students and the participants who are present here today. I'm really very privileged to speak on a very important philosopher, difficult as well, Sri Aurobindo. But when Kailash sir approached me to speak something on Sri Aurobindo, I could not stop myself thinking, and I was struggling for the title for which I'm going to talk. And then it comes to me all of a sudden, because of my recent readings on a very important philosopher, historian, contemporary historian, and finding that the clue from that, I'm going to speak on something today as the title declare, the story of our species. So let me share my slide today so that we can go further. Is this visible?
Yes. Visible. Visible.
Yes, sir.
Visible.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. It goes like this. Okay, this is this visible now? Yeah. So the title as it was declared as by Professor Kailash Chandra Maharana. The title is The Story of Our Species, and the story, of course, told by Sri Aurobindo. I am going to narrate his story, and of course, let's move. But before we go to the detail of my talk, let me ask a question to you. For you, question for you, of course, definitely, every one of you can answer this question in your chat box. What shall you be in next 10 years? This is the question for you. You can write down in your chat box in short form. Maybe you can say I'm going to be an IAS officer. I'm going to be do this. I'm going to do that. I'm saying, what shall you be in next 10 years? Of course, this is the question for your future, isn't it? You can write down whatever you want to be in your life in 10 years, next 10 years. Some people might say that I'm going to be a government officer. Okay, so they can write G, or someone might say that I'm going to marry someone and happily live, and then he can write he or M or something like that. Okay, what shall you be in next 10 years? This is a question about your future. I'm very sure that many of you, and of course most of you are very serious about your future, right? Yeah, someone is
नहीं अगर हम पड़ेगा
predict that what will all human beings become in next 50 years. Okay, are they going to be like animals, or are they going to be something else, or are they going to lose their body structure or something like that? What is your prediction? Just predict. Let's have a game, right? Let's play. What will all human beings become in next 50 years? Someone might say that by next 50 years no human beings will exist, because as the Russia is invading Ukraine, and then there is a possibility of the third world war. Might it happen that within next 5 years the world is going to be destroyed, all human beings are going to be destroyed? This could be your answer also, or at least your prediction, whatever your prediction is. Please write. Let me find out what are you predict about the whole future of. This is the future of our species, of course. What are you thinking about our human species? Next 50 years. You can write down something. No? No? Okay. If you cannot predict, let's listen to then an expert of our contemporary world. Ebe. Now he's very popular. Okay. So if we cannot predict about our future, right? We cannot predict about the future of the whole species, I am saying. You can predict about your future. Might be in 10 years you are going to be a government officer or something like that. But you cannot predict the future of the whole human beings, right? Then someone, Gitanjali, bodily structure may be changed. Yeah. There will be sources of water. Very good. So people are writing, so people are predicting. That's very good. That's very good that our students are predicting about the whole future of human beings. But then let's listen to an expert. The expert is this man. He is called Yuval Noah Harari, and very recently he has published a very interesting book. Oh, Omsar is saying that he is going to be very egoistic. All these are predictions. I'm not saying anything. All these are predictions. Yeah. Now this is a man who is very popular nowadays because of his popular books. Yuval Noah Harari. Now he has published a book that is called 21 Lessons for the 21st Century, right? Where he is going to predict what is going to happen in 50 years. What will be the future of human beings within 50 years, right? But before the publication of this book, he published another book. This is a very interesting book that is called Homo Deus. And I request all of you, please, if you have time, please go through this book. Homo Deus, it is written in a novel style, okay? So you can read it very interestingly. But the interesting thing is this. Can you see the arrow mark? So the subtitle of the book is called A Brief History of Tomorrow. That's interesting, isn't it? So he's going to write a history on tomorrow. What will be the future of all human beings? And he is going to write a history on it. Okay? That is called Homo Deus. Let me tell you what he says in this book. In fact, Homo represents the scientific name of Homo sapiens, from which the term human beings has come, right? So Homo means man or human beings, Homo. But he says that these Homo or human beings are going to be Deus. Deus Deus means devas, right? In our concept, we can say deva. Deus means gods, right? Deva. So he is saying, means Harari. Harari is saying that human beings are going to become gods, god-like. They are going to be like gods. This is an interesting declaration, and this interesting declaration comes from a very popular, uh, historian, contemporary historian, Noah Harari. He says that human beings are going to be like gods. Okay, they are going to be very powerful, powerful like gods. This is a very interesting declaration. But what type of God he is talking about, right? So this is very clear that human beings are going to be like gods. Gods means he wants to say gods means human beings are going to be become very powerful, like gods. Gods are very powerful people, right? And within 50 years, human beings are going to be very powerful, right? In different areas. For example, if you go to Indian tradition, we find that we have a god called rain god. He has a power to make rain. Okay, so he has power. Now, what type of God he was talking about? What type of power he was talking about? Was he talking about human beings are going to be very muscular, very powerful, like Bahubalis, like this? Or he is talking about this? He must have new weapons, new techniques. Of course, this God roughly represents Sri Ram, right? The second, isn't it? Yes or no? Yes or no? Why or no? You can say. Why or N? Which God is this? Ram, Sri Ram.
Yes,
Okay.
sir.
Yeah, Sri Ram. So Sri Ram is known for his power, of course, but the power doesn't come from his muscular body. Of course, he had a muscular body, but power comes from his novel weapon. That is that arrow, right? That arrow was important. So Ram became victorious because of his arrow. So his power comes from arrow, a new technique, right? And this Harara is saying that human beings are going to possess lots of new techniques so that he can have, they can have lots of power. The power doesn't come from body, but the power comes from technology. That's a very interesting idea. So human beings are going to possess lots of technology, and this technology comes from his mind. So if there, so there is an interesting struggle between muscle and mind, and Mr. Harari is going to say that human beings are going to have superior mind rather than superior body. So body is going to be ignored more and more and more, and mind is going to be enlarged more and more and more. That is how human beings are going to be powerful because their mind is going to be very powerful, very advanced. So this is a very interesting thing I could find out in this book, muscle versus mind, and this is an witness, you can say. Do you know this man? Anyone?
Yes, sir. Stephen Hawking.
Yeah, this is Stephen Hawking. Now, why I have showcased this picture is all about, look, how the body is insignificant here. So this is a man who is pushed to his wheelchair, because he was suffering from a very rare disease where his all muscles are just collapsed. But this is a man whom everyone is eyeing. This is a man whom everyone is respecting, revering, worshipping, literally worshipping because of his beautiful mind. So human beings are going to become powerful not because of their body, but because of their mind. That's a very interesting declaration, right? And more you are going to nurture and excel your mind, you are going to be powerful, you will become like God-like. So you will not become human beings. You are becoming God-like if you can have excellent mind, better mind. So this is what Harari was saying. Could you understand this much? What is the idea? The idea is more and more people are thinking, a contemporary philosopher, a contemporary historian is saying that look, more and more people are going to ignore their body body represents matter. More and more people are going to ignore matter, and more people are going to excel their mind, that is consciousness. And more they are going to excel in consciousness, the more and more advanced they will become. So that is the future of our species. But then Harari is getting the clue from here. He has another book called Sapiens, and the subtitle is called A Brief History of Humankind. Now Harari gets all these clues that more and more people are going to lose their body and going to nurture their mind more and more. It's because of historical facts that if you go back in time, then you will find that more and more human beings, through its evolution, gradual evolution, what has happened? They have ignored their bodily features, and they have nurtured their mind and consciousness. And therefore, perhaps human being has arrived at this stage. And if this continues, the process continues. The process is ignoring your body and excelling your mind, consciousness, expanding the horizon of your consciousness. Then you will become more powerful. So this is the thesis which Harari is going to present. Is that clear picture? And of course, this picture resembles this one. That is the exact picture through which our human evolution has progressed. We were like giant monkeys, huge body structure, muscular, body organs. Then gradually, what happens? Look at this. Gradually, we became weaker in body because we actually undermined our body. It's not that body is not important, but we undermine our body and we excel in our mind, and gradually and slowly our head becomes stronger and bigger. Now we are getting a bigger head and now weaker body. That signifies that how human beings throughout the evolution is making effort to excel their mind rather than body. Powered people. So this is what the prediction comes from Harari, right? You people predicted about the future of human beings. He is predicting the future of human beings, that human beings are going to be very powerful because their mind is going to be very powerful. Okay? And what we are doing, are we excelling our mind also? We are doing definitely, because we are attending this seminar, right? So thanks to Kailash sir that he has comes from Harari. But before that, right, Harari was talking about human past. That in past, human beings were like monkeys. They were very giant monkeys, very big, right? They had lots of body power, but then gradually they ceded their body power, but they excel in their mind. Okay? Anything ever has come, right? From where this universe has come, from where this world has come, the sun, the stars, the planets, all these things came. Right? We can ask this question also. In our mind frame, in our speculation, we can do that. Should we do that? Yes. But whenever we ask this question, the answer comes by a story. Again. And this story, right? And our science teacher speaks about a story about two stars. I'm very sure that you might have heard this story through your science teacher also, right? What is that? The story of two stars. Our science teacher was saying that once upon a time there was nothing, but there were two stars. Okay, there are only two stars. There were nothing. No human beings, no planets, no sun, no animals, no trees, nothing. But then there were two stars only. Okay, and two stars were moving fastly, right? Two stars were moving very fastly, parallelly, alongside each other. Both were moving, but all of a sudden, one star collapsed, broke down with a bang. as the Big Bang theory in physics, right? And then he says that the star was collapsed, one star was collapsed completely, broken into pieces, and all these pieces actually started moving around the another star, the next star, right? And that is how what happened. The star around which other pieces were moving, that star was called sun, and all the stars, pieces of stars of course, which are moving, they were called planets. Okay, this is how we got our 8 planets or 9 planets, right? So this is the story of our universe as told by our science teacher, right? Have you heard this story in your school time?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
How many of you believed in this? You believed your teacher because your teacher is respected
So
person,
in
right?
childhood, I just by the story I read from there.
Okay, very good. So this is the story spoken by our teacher about the origin of our universe, right? This is the origin of our universe, from where this universe comes. Today, this story now seems to be very redundant because we find in the other kinds of stories in physics, right? I'm not going to detail into that, but this is the story about our universe, right? And when I heard this story, I asked a question. Not to my science teacher, because otherwise he would have been scolded me. I didn't ask this question to my school teacher, right? But I asked this question to myself. You might have asked the same question also. Means why it's our teacher said that there were 2 stars only. Why 2 stars? Why not 3? Why not 4? Why not 5? Why not 1? But only 2 stars, right? This question came to us whenever we heard this story, right? Why not these 2 stars? What is 2 stars? There could be many stars, right? But there were only 2 stars, right? This is a question that came to my mind. And you could have asked this question also. Another question is, why one collapsed? Why not 2? Both of them could have collapsed, right? Why one collapsed? And why the collapsed parts, right? The broken parts, they revolved around another. Why not they went away? They moved away. Why did they go around the another star? That was the story you can ask also. And most of the time when you ask this question to the science teacher, they will say this is by chance. It's by chance. And there is interesting theory in physics. It's called chance theory, of course. And everything happens by chance, right? Everything happens in this universe by chance. This is very interesting. But then why is it only by chance? This is a question. Of course, the physicists give an answer, give a logic. Logic of that chance theory is called no, it's not by chance. It's because of some opposite and contrasting forces. There are certain forces, and because of those forces and they interact with each other, therefore what happened? One star actually attracted the parts of other stars, and today we say that is called gravitational force, right? Because of that gravitational force, everything was moving around the another. Okay, so this is the logic, rationale behind that chance theory. Okay, so this is how our universe actually came to existence. This is how physics people give an answer. How did this universe come into existence? Okay, and this is called material evolution. What they say that from these 2 stars and this Big Bang, what happens because of the contraction expansion, this material evolution happens, and from that initial explosion, everything comes now toward we see table, chair, bench, right? Mountain, sea, all these things come from these 2 pieces. Okay, so this is called material evolution. But then another question comes, and the question comes by this man. This is called Charles Darwin, right? A very famous biologist, right? He has written a very interesting book called The Origin of Species, right? The Origin of the Species, where he actually spoke about how human beings evolved. Okay, the universe evolved, like the planets, like animals, like not animals, but material things like mountains, everything happened, stones and all these things. But from how is it happen? That from stones, how did human beings come? From matter, how did life come? That is the question this man asked. Sorry. So this man asked, and this is the publication of this book, The Origin of Species, where he says, very interesting thing he says, that life also evolves from the matter, again by chance. This is a very interesting thing. So by chance, actually, life comes out of matter. Okay? And then he says, look, the early life forms, he was talking about this early life forms. He says, if you keep water, fresh water even, fresh water for some times, then from that water only life forms come out. So life form doesn't exist in different category. It comes out of matter itself. So life is nothing but an evolute of the matter. Right? Is that clear? And this is the early life form from which again out of this combination, right, different types of life come. And from simple lives like this, now complex lives like human beings have evolved. Okay, so this is what is the called biological evolution. Okay, so we have two different kinds of evolution. It's called, one is material evolution, another is called biological evolution. So in material evolution, we say that matter evolves from simple matter to complex matter, right? From a very simple matter, we can find now the complex matter like a mobile phone, right? So this is called material evolution. Now, there is another kind of evolution, but of course, from this matter of course, when matter becomes more subtle, right, more delicate, from matter itself springs out life, and that is called biological evolution. But from biological evolution again, Darwin says that life comes as a very simple form, but from simple evolution, right, there are at least two forces, and that is called two stories of two tales, right? What is that? He says, Darwin says, that because of natural selection and struggle for existence, that means each life form struggles for its existence, and for this struggle for existence, what happens? Some life form get destroyed, and some life form again jump into another level, and that is how a more complex kind of life form evolves. Okay, so this is how biological evolution happens, and this is how he says that from a simple life form, right, from just like a bacteria, or the complex life form like human beings have now come out. Okay, this is called biological evolution. But then the same question we can ask, what is that? Why it's so? Why the bacteria became very complex kind of person like human being, right? Why is it become like a giant or something else, or something very mythical characters or comic characters we see in our comic shows, right? Why is human being? Is there any connection? Is there a predeterminate plan that from matter there will be very small, simple kind of life form, and the life form will not become different kinds of life forms, but a very meticulously designed, planned, a very complex, sophisticated life form like human being? Is there a plan behind it? This is a question. This is by chance, or some forces are working under this. Some planning is going on that no, it's not that different kinds of life forms, but a particular kind of life form has to be evolved, and that is the culmination of all kind of evolution. Is that man? This is a question we can ask. Each chance a mere chance, or there is a determination, there is a planning behind every chance? So this is a question we should ask. Okay, and we can say, is there a higher kind of order or a purpose behind all these evolution, right? From that two stars, now from human beings, is there a purpose behind it? All the journey, all the evolution? Is there a purpose that the whole process is going to achieve something? Is that a question? So that is a question, and this is the question comes from. Now we can also talk about evolution in a mechanical kind of evolution and teleological kind of evolution. And mechanical kind of evolution, you can see that everything happens repetitively. So bacteria, and then more bacteria and more bacteria and more bacteria and nothing else. But then there is a teleological evolution also. From bacteria or higher order kind of another life being, and from that life being another higher kind of life, there is a purpose to serve. If there is a bacteria, then there must be a purpose behind it. Why bacteria came into existence? Okay, so this is what is the question. Two types of evolution we can think of, right? And here comes another very important milestone, right? I talked about stories. Three stories I talked about. One story spoken by a very contemporary historian called Harari. Another story spoken by many astrophysicists. They were talking about Big Bang theory or story of two stars. Another story was spoken by Charles Darwin. He was saying that from a simpler life form, by natural selection and because of the struggle of existence, we find more and more complex kind of life form, right? So this is another story. So we can find three stories. Now another story is spoken by this man, Sri Aurobindo, and he published a book, very interesting book called The Life Divine, right? He also speaks a story about the past of human beings and the future of human beings, right? Just like people were talking about either time talking about past or future, now he is also talking about the future. And the thesis is, his prediction is that human beings are going to become divine. But this divine is something different from the Dios, what Harari was talking about, right? Harari was talking about human beings are going to become Dios, like gods. Now, Aurobindo was also talking about human beings are going to become divine, life is going to be divine. But this concept of divine might be in 100 years or might be in 50 years or might be 150 years, human beings are going to become divine. So this is a prediction of Sri Aurobindo, right? But this concept of divine is different from the concept of Dios was Harari was talking about, but that I am not going to discuss. But let me talk about why and what is the reason why Sri Aurobindo was saying that human beings are going to become divine and how it will be possible. That is the question, okay? And he talks about his evolutionary theory. Sri Aurobindo talks about his evolutionary theory. He says evolution theory merely states the process, means what Darwin was saying or what other physicists were saying, that evolution is happening, change is coming, change is happening, but they were talking how the change is happening. They never talked about why this is happening, right? Why the two stars, one of them was collapsed, another was become static, and others were moving around it. How it was happening, they just depicted. But why it was happening, they didn't depict it, right? Now Sri Aurobindo is going to say why this is happening. This is a distinctive feature of Sri Aurobindo's theory of evolution, right? We are going to say. And this is very interesting. Again, Sri Aurobindo's notion says scientific theory of evolution, both Charles Darwin's and the physicist theory of evolution violates a very simple law of thought. What is that? He says nothing comes out of nothing. You just imagine, how is it possible that a life comes from a non-living thing like matter? Because matter and life both are categorically different. Their structures are different. Their nature is different. So how is it possible that life, which is categorically different, comes from something else that is categorically different? Right? And we can give an example. How can oil come out of sand? Right? Oil cannot come out of sand because sand is categorically different material. Oil is categorically different material. Just like sand cannot come from oil, similarly life cannot come from matter. So this is the logic. This is the thought. Okay, and that is the laws of thought is called nothing comes out of nothing. Okay, so Aurobindo starts from this hypothesis that you cannot simply say that from matter everything comes. There is a systematic flow in it. There must be something else out of which life comes. Right? So this is the thesis from which Sri Aurobindo proceeds. Then Sri Aurobindo proceeds with two assumptions. One is that we can say, how can life come out of matter? This is the question, right? What he says, look, he says, without a higher unifying principle, diversity cannot be understood. This is a very interesting hypothesis Sri Aurobindo takes, that you cannot just explain everything, every change in this universe through a mere chance theory. No. There must be some purpose, some higher kind of purpose playing beneath all these kind of changes. If you cannot assume that, then this diversity cannot be understood. Okay? This is how he started. He started with two assumptions. One is that there must be a very higher kind of force or purpose behind all kind of changes. Otherwise, change cannot occur. First hypothesis. And second hypothesis is that one category kind of thing cannot come from a different kind of category. So this is another assumption, right? And this is how you can assume that he is talking about Brahman when he talks about a higher kind of purpose. This is an open question for you. I don't know. I'm not going to tell you, but this is how some people they say that Sri Aurobindo is talking about Brahman because Brahman is a higher kind of purpose which actually makes it. So I'm not going to discuss on that, but you can simply presume that whether Sri Aurobindo is talking about Brahman. But what he says, he is talking about spiritual evolution. He's saying, look, all these kind of changes, the way this change happens from simple kind of matter to complex kind of matter, from complex kind of matter to simple kind of life, from simple life again complex kind of life. If we just look at this process of change, you can say that there is another kind of evolution is in the play that is called spiritual evolution. Okay, so Sri Aurobindo was talking about that spiritual kind of evolution. That evolution is that everywhere something is moving and making all the changes to find something. Now let me take a pause and ask a question. Do you not search something? Every one of us and is searching something. Something. We are just, restless. We are searching for something. If you get it, then you search for something else. Then you get it, then you search for something else. We all of us are searching for something. What is that? Why? Who is searching in us? Right? This is the question perhaps Sri Aurobindo was talking about spiritual evolution. That every one of us is searching for something higher kind of thing, to achieve something higher. Right? Whatever we are not satisfied with that. We're just searching for something else, something higher. That is perhaps something called spiritual evolution. Okay? Now, I can say two questions. One is called why this happened and how this happened. Right? Now, why this happened, I'm not going to speak on much, but how the creation happens, I'm going to speak a little on this. Because everyone was talking about the how. Now, I'm going to talk about also how this is going to happen. Of course, Sri Aurobindo would say that how this spiritual evolution will happen. Okay? He says spiritual evolution will happen through two processes. One is called involution, or this is called descent, and another is called evolution, or that is called ascent. Let's understand what is these two processes through which we are moving towards or going to realize our higher kind of level. Okay? So first one is called involution. Involution is like this. He says the universal spirit descends to the matter to make the evolution begin. Now you just remember I was saying that look, there was matter. From matter, why life begins? It's not the matter that wanted only. Even though it wanted, that could not happen. Because life itself wanted that life should begin. So a larger kind of, or higher kind of spirit wanted and therefore came to matter to become life. Okay, so this is what is called the involution process. The higher kind of being comes down to the lower kind of being to make it or to take it to the higher level. That is called descent. But this descent doesn't come like this. Let me tell you how it is. Is it like this? Descent comes from above and takes it. No, it's not like that. This is very interesting. It's not like this. It's like this. Look. Okay. Do you understand the idea? The idea is the higher being is not detached and just taking the lower being. No. The higher being comes down and takes the round one. Can you see the picture? Second picture.
Yes.
Can you see the distinction between these two pictures? The first picture is the higher person wants to rescue, but he is not descending down, right? The person is going to raising his hand. The higher person is just taking him. He is not descending. But in the second picture, what is happening? The drowning man is of course asking for help, but the rescuing person is entering to the water himself and then rescues, right? Can you see that difference? So, like this. And Sri Aurobindo says, descent happens like this. The higher spirit comes down, but it is not coming down just like Sankhya's Purusha, right? Detached. No. It is coming down and trying to be like that. And then makes elevated. So this is called descent. Can you understand? And what is evolution? And of course, this is very interesting. The interesting thing is that not that higher being is just rescuing him, but the lower being is also wanting it. That let me go to the higher level. Okay, so the higher level wants to take the lower being to higher level, and the lower being also wants to become higher. This is very interesting thing. Okay, and this is what is called ascent or evolution, right? So evolution is the inverse action of the involution, right? So descent, ascent, and this is the process of evolution of Sri Aurobindo's theory. That this is the question. Sir, एबे सार देवी 2 मिनट सार देवी sir.
ठीक है.
हाँ, 2 minutes sir. So what happens? From the existence, what happens through this evolution means descent and ascent. Another higher level kind of thing comes, that is called conscious force, and from this conscious force again another higher kind of level happens, that is called supermind. I'm not going to talk about supermind because my co-speaker is going to talk about supermind or superman. Okay, and this is how the graph happens. From matter, life evolves. It's not that matter becomes life. It's because life comes to matter to make it life. This is a very interesting thing. So it moves and comes down. Again moves and comes down. That is what happens. From life it goes to psyche. From psyche it goes to mind. And from mind it goes to supermind. This is how the evolution process happens. And but then this Sri Aurobindo declares a very interesting thing. Is that the future of human being lies in the just before becoming supermind. Okay? Because human beings are at that stage that the next level is supermind. And I think everyone is going to be supermind. But how he is going to be supermind, let's listen to Saroj sir. But then Sri Aurobindo declares that this is how there can be a possibility of life divine. And thank you very much. And this is my card. You can write down to me. If you have anything, so you can write down to me me by this email, or you can visit my YouTube channel, Patitapaban Das, for other talks. Thank you very much for this opportunity.
Okay, thanks so much, Professor Das, for reflecting on the story of her space. This citing the views of contemporary thinkers and scientists, Homogeus, Harari, Stephen, and others. You have very beautifully explored that now the body is going to be ignored and mind is going to be powerful. The contemporary philosophers have staged on expanding the horizon of consciousness. Sir, very briefly, you reflected upon the biological evolution depicted by Charles Darwin, and you have matter contains life, form, and spirit within in Sri Aurobindo's view. And you said how it is not by chance, but it is very perfect. And the life divine of Sri Aurobindo, you explore that it speaks of the past of human beings and future of human beings. The human beings will become divine. The divine life is divine body. And it is a spiritual evolution as you have depicted from Sri Aurobindo's point of view. And the process of evolution, you said that it takes two forms, evolution and evolution. One is ascending order and another is a descending order. And you have touched that how one day human being is going to be Superman in Sri Aurobindo's view. And you have made a connectivity from that is in between your talk and Professor Saroj's view, Saroj's talk. And Professor Saroj will speak on Sri Aurobindo's view on Superman, and super. It is a very interesting topic. And today you have benefited. You have made us what you have made us benefited from all points of view, and the presentation. Thank you so much, sir. Now it's time to move to Professor Saroj. Professor Saroj will speak on Sri Aurobindo's view on Superman. Over to Professor Saroj. Saroj sir.
Just
Saroj sir.
coming.
Saroj sir.
Just presenting. I am thankful to Bhai and the organizers in the Balugaon College. First, I make my namaskar to my teacher, Ganesh sir, and all my senior colleagues, friends, and the co-presenters. It is beautiful to see that how Superman, the concept, evolved in Sri Aurobindo's philosophy. Mainly between 1915 to 1920, the concept has been deliberated in Sri Aurobindo's philosophy by different scholars, and Sri Aurobindo himself initiated the concept in his theory of evolution of mind to supermind in order to descent of the Satchidananda. The concept was used before, just a little before Sri Aurobindo's advent to philosophy and spiritual practices. 1808, first it was discussed the concept of Superman was brought out by Jonathan Wolfgang von Goethe. He was a dramatist, a playwrightist, a poet, and he was a social thinker and a scientist all in one. He created a drama which is called First, and in the First is a character, and that character is in between the struggle of evil and God. So God and evil is called Mephistopheles or Mephisto, Mephistopheles or Mephisto. And there is a deliberation between God and Mephisto. In the drama is depicting the scene that there is a deliberation, there is a contrast, there is a argument between God and Mephisto, that whether a person can conquer the instinct and live in the righteousness. Then God says that yes, at least there is a person first in the mortal world who can live in righteousness and will not be seduced by the instincts and the lower type of mind, like a desire, craving, like this. He may live up to righteousness. Then it was a challenge between God and Mephisto, God and evil. That means good and evil. So then the Mephisto, the evil person, the evil came to the world, to the mortal world, and he tried to entice first to come to the carnal desires and whatever belongs to the lower instincts. First gave in. So it was an agreement between first and the evil, that the first sold out his soul to the evil, in the return that the evil will give him the carnal desire and the carnal pleasure and whatever he wants in the long run. In the beginning, the evil wins. In the beginning, evil wins, but slowly, first came in the middle of life and came to know that it is the evil that will bring him to down. So he wanted to arise again. It is a resurrection. He wanted to reproof and to make correct whatever was wrong, and he wanted a moral rising happens in the first, and at that time he makes a prayer to God again, and so much of difficulty he has taken. He wanted to keep away the evil and the enticements, the um, um, the good things that our evil was giving. He was going to reject, and he was going to penance, to difficulty, to rejection of all this worldly pleasure, to get the God and live in moral way. And God says him that when God appears before him, he could not see the God, and then God says that, "Oh Superman, you called me, you made penance for me with difficulties. Now, why you are hiding your face? You look at me." So, what happens in this story, in this drama of first, that first won, the goodness won, and when goodness won above the carnal desires, that is the Superman, and that is depicted in the drama First by the Goethe. But Goethe has written it over and over, again and again, and from 1880 to 1828, it was again written and written, so story becomes complicated and larger and larger. The concept Superman was discussed first in English-speaking world by Goethe. Then the second person who brought the Superman concept to limelight before Sri Aurobindo was Friedrich Wilhelm Nietzsche. Nietzsche wrote one novel, Thus Spoke Zarathustra, in 1883-85. Here he brought a concept, Übermens. Übermens means overman. Overman, when translated, it becomes Superman, or it is called Superman, synonym of Superman. Superman is understood in the beginning as the superior man who justifies the existence of human race. So, if you make the comparison, among the Western thinkers, Goethe was a poet and dramatist, and Nietzsche, a social thinker, they brought the concept Superman. In Goethe, we see that is the hope for freedom. Freedom from the carnal desires, lower instincts, and to live in righteousness which is higher, which is godly. And Nietzsche was a social reformer, so he wanted a social freedom. At the time of Nietzsche, there are not only social conflicts, the torture of the higher to the lower, exploitation by the wealthy to the poor, but also there is religious torture. The religious people wanted to capture the human destiny and his whereabouts, all these freedom and destiny, and to make the instruments. The human being wanted freedom, but religious scriptures, religious people, religious thought was so much so that not only by the Ten Commandments, but also by other rites, rituals, and observations, man becomes slave to uh, religious hegemony. So Nietzsche wanted social freedom and religious freedom. He went against this Christian thinking and thought which was troubling the society, troubling human being. So wanted a freedom for humanity, and those who wanted that freedom, denying the social customs and the previous beliefs, and who can reject the religious ideas, religious beliefs, and stand by reason, stand by his own conscience, stand by his willpower. Nietzsche said that is the Superman. So, as per Goethe's time and Goethe's personality, and as per the Nietzsche's time and Nietzsche's social situation and his personality, they made their Superman. Sri Aurobindo, who came after just 28 years of Nietzsche, he got the concept of Superman not from Nietzsche. Of course, he read Nietzsche by that time, and Goethe also when he was in England. But he was not attracted by that. He was imprisoned in the freedom struggle of India, and in this imprisonment, he has some practices, some yogic practices, simple meditations, but he made it so vigorously that he has some experiences, mystic experiences, and he described that he listened Krishna speaking to him, appearing before him again and again. So it is yogic insight, and that yogic insight was not leading to the concept of Superman. The yogic insight was matured, adopted, and again practiced by different yogic methods, which also included some occult practices, and then that yogic insight was emboldened to make that yes, in this consciousness, in this manhood, a supermanhood, a higher order of consciousness, higher order of thought, higher order of power may descend. So this yogic insight about Superman in a spiritual, which comes from spiritual experiences and practices, is totally different from the Nietzsche's social, political, religious Superman and Goethe's poetic Superman, which wanted to be higher order of personality. being freedom from the lower order of personality. How the Superman happens? When Sri Aurobindo evolved his total philosophy, then he made these gradations, and these gradations I am bringing, and after that also I will bring some passages which is very famous, because I understand that our students, there are so many students, and the students they should be acquainted wherever they are acquainted be for less or more. So this is very known model, that how Sri Aurobindo was thinking the evolution from the lower to higher. Dr. Patitapaban has presented this evolution theory against the biological and mechanical evolution theory. He presented this spiritualistic metaphysical evolution theory. Spiritual and metaphysical evolution theory evolved by answering why there is evolution, and mechanistic or biological evolution just try to give how the evolution happens. So those who are the scientists and biologists and some modern people, they are giving how the evolution happens, but still they cannot answer. At some time they are keeping their investigations in open, so that in the future time some other person may give some answers, because we did not have some answers at the time of Darwin or just after that, but nowadays we have some more answers. So how things is a different thing, but why this happens? This is metaphysical evolution, metaphysical theory of evolution, and in that evolution, as Professor Patitapaban presented, that the purpose, the teleological perspective is already there. That means it is not the upadana karana, but some nimitta karana. It is not the material cause and material evolution, but it is also the efficient cause is more important, and it is because of efficient cause it happens. So that if efficient cause is there, and he must be a conscious person, because if he could be unconscious, then all this total world would be unconscious, we could not be conscious. Hence a conscious person has some purpose, and that purpose happens slowly, step by step, as it is visible, as it's evident now. And if it is evident now, something is evident now, then something else will be evident tomorrow. So that's the purpose, that the fully consciousness to be one minute. Sir, namaskar. Sorry. That a consciousness will be manifested as matter, inconscient, and then subconscient in the plants, and the physical, vital, and then in man. Sir, namaskar. Sir, what talk re achi pare te katha house. Thank you. Then in human being, not only in human being, in the lower animals, in some of the animals, mind is also developed to some extent, but in human being, there is the possibility that mind will develop to its fullest extent, and then in the human being, the higher mind will develop, and other stages, that illumined mind and intuition, overmind, will develop till supermind. What are these higher mind, illumined mind, intuition mind, overmind, and supermind are more or less known to all, and I am not going to detail to save some time. So and also we can discuss it in a later stage when question answer will come. The thing, the development happens due to one kind of how the transformation happens. That patitapaban led to me that how from the mind or from the inconscient to the conscient to the highest, fullest conscient stages, that is supermind will evolve. And the method Sri Aurobindo has given, that integral yoga. The integral yoga, it is said that when all yogas finish, then Sri Aurobindo's integral yoga starts. That means we may practice some kind of yoga, hatha yoga, or bhakti yoga, or jnana yoga, or raja yoga. But we have to make integration of that to develop all our faculties and then to lead on to a type of transformation which is called supramental transformation. It is not, it may not be the physical transformation. We are physically enough to make the mental transformation. So it is from the mind to the supermind we have to make a transformation. So slowly transforms. When we make yoga, and integral yoga is not that we are sitting somewhere sometime and doing something and then forgetting it. It is total full of life. Without any leave of a moment, if the yoga will be assimilated with our daily life, with the thought, the awareness that whatever we are, we are divine and expression of a divine. And whatever we are working, it is due to divine, and divine is making me work. Whatever I am thinking, that is the divine is making. So if somebody, it's not that some artificially somebody will think of that. If somebody will be aware of that, somebody realizes that, then that integral yoga, that transformation happens. In order to make that realization, in order to make that transformation, awareness alive with our life, we have to make some study, some practices in the initial stage. But after the initial stage, it will be automatic. Automatically, we will be in a state of divine awareness. We will work within that. We don't have any aspirations. Then when automatically it will happen, then it is actually starting of the integral yoga. And when this starting will happen, then transformation will be automatic. When we have higher minds, we can become, we can think of over our personal and over our individual needs, but we can think of in a higher way that the scientists think, the social scientists think of other people. We can feel the misery and this pathetic condition of all, and we may go ahead to help them in whatever condition. A person, we are persons were going, and if we can see somewhere some accident and a person is injured, he needs help. Some people just go, and some people just stay there and try to help. Some people jump to help, and that is the higher mind. The higher mind evolves suddenly in them. Even if they are not practicing yoga, integral yoga at that time, they are not aware of the divine divinity, that they are promulgated by the divinity, but the higher mind develops. It's an example. And sometimes we are thinking of something and some trying to solve some problems, and suddenly it strikes to us. Sri Aurobindo says that this is an illumination. Suddenly we see. But in the integral yoga, the illumination happens about the divinity, the universal consciousness, how it is extended everywhere. That is the illumination in integral yoga. But intellectually we have some illumination. We got some idea suddenly to solve some problem. That is illumination. But illumination, the divine illumination, is that divinity is everywhere and it will suddenly come to. Intuition of intuition has different meaning in different contexts, but in the divine way, the intuition gives off the way that the way Vyasadeva wrote Mahabharata, the way Ramayana was just started before Rama was born by Valmiki, that's the intuition. So intuition is a flash of light, but vigorous, and it gives the idea and the whole structure of a variety of things. So divine illumination, intuition happens at that time. Overmind, in the Jaina philosophy, we know that the Kevala Jnana. The before Kevala Jnana, that is some Avadhi Jnana. So when somebody will have the overmind, to some extent, he will know the divine. Just like Sri Aurobindo developed this overmind in the jail and saw the divine in form of Krishna. And later he also said that I also listened, Vivekananda is telling me something. And supermind happens when Satchidananda descends to. This, when descending and ascending, when we are trying to ascend, then the superior thing descend to us. In this sense, it is literal, not in literal sense, but in a poetic sense, in a figurative sense. It is said that descending and ascending. Actually, we said that ଯେତେବେଳେ ଆମେ ଈଶ୍ୱରଙ୍କ ଆଡ଼କୁ ଗୋଟିଏ ପଦ ଦେଉଛୁ, ଈଶ୍ୱର ଆମ ଆଡ଼କୁ 10 ପଦ ଆସନ୍ତି। ଯେତେବେଳେ ଗୋଟେ ଛୁଆଟାଏ ଦୌଡ଼ିକି ଆସୁଛି ସ୍କୁଲରୁ ଏବଂ ତା ମା ବା କେହି ଅଭିଭାବକ ଠିଆ ହେଇଛି ତାକୁ ନେବା ପାଇଁ, ସେ ଯେତେବେଳେ ଦୌଡ଼ିକି ଗୋଟେ ପାଦ ଆସୁଛି, ଅନ୍ୟମାନେ ମଧ୍ୟ ତା ପାଖକୁ ଦୌଡ଼ିକି ଯାଉଛନ୍ତି। So it is the attraction. The descending happens because the ascending power, the ascending consciousness evolves to capture that. So it is not that somebody is descending or water is descending. It's just attaching with each other. So descending and ascending is figurative, of course, poetic, of course, but there is a meaning, there is a and symbolically it extends to the understanding that when we are going to higher, the higher we are realizing that a higher and the higher is expressed in us, and when it is expressed, a person becomes a superman. It is sometimes debated that whether a superman is a different species or a superman we can be a superman, whether it is a different species. So many times Sri Aurobindo describes a different kind of a species, just like in our Puranas. So let me read out this passage from Sri Aurobindo. Every race that thus overshoots its mark and goes a step further than their immediate next race in evolution aids powerfully that evolution, but becomes unfit for survival and has to disappear. For this reason, the Gandharva race of the Asus disappeared and the Asura Rakshasa type reappeared, then took up something of the Gandharva and advanced one step towards the Asura Pasu of the Asura type. By such overleaping and recoiling, human evolution has always advanced. It says that the passage which is from the record of yoga by Sri Aurobindo, it depicts that suppose we are deficient, we are unfit to take advance, then we will disappear. Just like the survival of fittest, when we become fit, we are just ahead, fit to go ahead, then we can stay and evolution starts. Man is a transitional being. He is not final. For in him and high beyond him ascend the radiant degrees which climb to a divine supermanhood. The step from man to superman is the next approaching achievement in the Earth's evolution. There lies our destiny and the liberating key to our aspiring but troubled and limited human existence. Inevitable because it is at once the intention of the inner spirit and the logic of nature's process. I shall come later towards this passage when I shall compare it, Sri Aurobindo's Superman with Nietzsche. The appearance of a human possibility in a material and animal world was the first glimpse of a coming divine light, the first far off intimation of a Godhead to be born out of matter. The appearance of the Superman in the human world will be the fulfilling of that distant shining promise. What I want to bring to home by this passage that if man is behold and man is not final and the finality is the supermanhood and that supermanhood is already destined and for that destination life evolves in the matter. Then Sri Aurobindo says evolution is not finished with man. Reason is not the last word nor the reasoning animal, the supreme figure of nature. As man emerged out of the animal, so out of man the superman emerges. And this passage says that this passage justifies that Sri Aurobindo is saying us that Superman emerges from the man, not as a different species, just like Rakshasas, Gandharvas, and others. Who is Superman? Sri Aurobindo asks, and then answers, he who can rise above this matter regarding broken mental human unit and possesses himself universalized and deified in a divine force, a divine love and a joy and a divine knowledge. That is the Superman. That I was telling that when when a person lives in a divinity, works in a divinity, that realizes the divinity, that becomes the Superman is the next possibility to appear, to descend in him. Then when it descends, what happens? The person transcends to the lower, transcends from the lower. If thou keepest this is in old English, so it was written in the old English way. If thou keepest this limited human ego and thinkest thyself the Superman, thou art but the fool of thy own pride, the plaything of thy own force, and the instrument of thy own illusions. To state a little bit, if a person will be within the realm of ego, thinking that I am or I consciousness, with I consciousness or living, thinking and working in the with the I consciousness without the divinity, then he is not the Superman. He is just working within. He is a fool within own pride, his own ego, and this is the thing that Nietzsche can come to say, because Nietzsche's Superman could not go above the ego, but lived and extended that his personal ego. But Superman of the Superman in Sri Aurobindo's philosophy is transcending that ego. That ego becomes something. Ego becomes a nothing. Ego becomes a null. Then what a Superman can do? What he should do? Sri Aurobindo says, "Be to the world as the lion in fearlessness and lordship, as a lion in fearlessness and lordship, as the camel in patience and service, as the cow in quiet forbearing and maternal beneficence." These three things is Sri Aurobindo says when he is comparing his supermanhood with the supermanhood, the concept of supermanhood of Nietzsche. In his own, he says that you become a lion. Lion symbolizing the fearlessness. A superman is become like a lion, a fearlessness like a lion, and lordship as like a lion means powerful. He becomes he has much patience and service like a camel. He has a quite forbearing and a maternal beneficence like a cow. Cow has the maternal beneficence towards all. So Superman becomes here humble, not a pride, not an arrogant person. Raven on all the joys of God as a lion over its prey, but bring also all humanity into that infinite field of luxurious ecstasy to it must be swallow there and to pasture. This means a person will remain with the divine, remain within the divine, realizing the divine will live with an ecstasy, luxurious ecstasy. In comparison with Nietzsche's Superman, Nietzsche saw the Superman as the lion soul passing out of the camelhood. But the two heraldic, yes, to to come to this was Nietzsche saw the Superman as the lion soul passing out of camelhood. So in the previous, the camel was representing the patience and serving, patience and service. Here, Superman of Nietzsche is passing out the camelhood, means passing out the patience and service. Superman will not do any service, will not have any patience. Before he has patience, he has service. When he was a man, when he became Superman, he came out from that. He's no more the same man. But the true heraldic device and token of the Superman is the lion seated upon the camel. When the Superman becomes who is the camel? Camel has patience, camel representing the patience and service, and that is the man. And when the Superman becomes a lion, he will sit on the camel. Camel is the prey for him. So he controls, he subdues, he can kill, he can be lord over, he can enjoy the man. So Superman here not helping the man but capturing, controlling the man upon the camel which stands upon the cow of plenty. The cow is represented as plenty, is maternal benevolence and quick service. So all these things are represented plenty. Cow is plentiness. On plentiness there is camel, the man, and on man there is the lion. So Superman of Nietzsche is like this. On the cow, above the cow or above the cow there is camel, and above the camel the lion controlling and enjoying all these things, the camel and the cow. So this is the Superman of Nietzsche, a torturing, controlling, arrogant but powerful, subduing lion. If thou canst not be the slave of all mankind, thou art not fit to be its master, and if thou canst not make any nature as Vasishta's cow, from this, if thou canst not be the slave, this is Sri Aurobindo's comparison. He says that if a person, a Superman, cannot be the slave of mankind, then the Superman cannot be its master. And if thou canst not make thy nature as Vasishta's cow of plenty with all mankind to draw its wish from her order, what avails the lion's supermanhood? He says that Sri Aurobindo says that that the lion type of Superman in Nietzsche is not required. If we cannot serve to the humankind, we cannot become slave to the humankind, we cannot become its master. And we need Vasishta's cow. Superman can become a Vasishta's cow. Vasishta's cow fulfills the wishes, whatever Vasishta wishes and others wishes, that cow gives, that Nandini. and Superman becomes like that Nandini, fulfilling the wishes of all the multitudes of mortals, whatever they require. So here the Superman of Nietzsche is controlling or subduing, overdoing, and capturing the others. And Superman of Nietzsche, so Sri Aravinda is just mastering the all in the sense that serving them, giving, fulfilling their wishes. Why I am bringing Nietzsche to Sri Aurobindo? Because a comparison makes more and better understanding in a little bit of time. Just like if you say white and describe what is white, then it will be difficult to understand. But if you say white and black, giving the examples, then white and black, white and red, then it may be understood better. So that is why I brought Nietzsche to understand Sri Aurobindo's concept of Superman by contrasting in their philosophy. So Nietzsche's background and Sri Aurobindo's background are different. Nietzsche's background was when Enlightenment, the period of Enlightenment started. There was the age of reason against the beliefs, superstitions. Reason was awakening without accepting faith, belief, and the superstitions. And Sri Aurobindo's background was the uh, uh, not enlightenment starting, but the background is the spiritualistic realization, the mystic realization, the yogic practices. So the background is different. And at the time of Nietzsche, the exploitative nature, the exploitative religious society at the advent of enlightenment was the feature. That is why Nietzsche wanted that his Superman or his Superman should desist from and can reject the God, the society, the exploitative religious, and go above the present situation. But in Sri Aurobindo's situation, the background is Vedantic spirituality or the conviction of by yogic or mystic experience and his enlightenment. And that is why their Superman are different from each other in many respects. And there are some other differences. Nietzsche saw the world as ruthlessly different to man's moral ends. But Sri Aurobindo, I wrote essay, Sri Aurobindo saw the world as a constant struggle between moral and immoral, vice and virtue. The latter emerges as a higher form from the former, the lower. Thus, moral ends evolves from the brute life. But Nietzsche could not see this moral ends. It is the nature, there is no morality. According to Nietzsche, there is no such thing as a moral phenomenon, but a moral interpretation of phenomena. Actually, it happens. It leads to a different understanding of relativism in morality. But according to Sri Aurobindo, to morality is different to a limited one, but to the unlimited it is beyond and higher. This is phenomenon. A higher is beyond good and evil of the limited, but it is auspicious in a higher scale. When Nietzsche saw that phenomena is neither moral nor immoral, and morality is the interpretation of the phenomena, interpretation by the privileged people in their own way for their selfish purpose. And Sri Aurobindo said that no, it is not like that. What you say morality is it connected to a limited thing. But if his supermanhood comes, when he becomes unlimited, he becomes auspicious to them. There is no moral or immoral, but it is auspicious. That means basically it is immoral, but it in a higher scale. The Nietzsche saw nature as an irrational dynamic source, an expression of will to power. These passages I quoted, uh, and it's not the red color is the passages I quoted, and the blue are my writings, and some of the expressions are quoted also. Nietzsche saw nature as an irrational dynamic source, an expression of will to power. It is without pity or justice. There is no justice, there is no pity anywhere. It is ruthlessly indifferent to moral values. From such a perspective of nature, he drew his idea of rigid determinism. He denied the freedom of the will as he asserted that all actions proceeded all actions proceeded from the confines of heredity and environment. In contrast, Sri Aurobindo saw nature a dynamic surge of evolution of divinity in the form of more and more rationality, and in that sense, is expression of will to power. Nietzsche says that it is also dynamic source of will to power, that it is the power we can exercise and go above, subdue others. But in Sri Aurobindo, it is yes, it is the will to power, but it is the divine will to power. It is not the personal egoistic will to power. Then Sri Aurobindo says it can express pity and justice at a higher level. Nietzsche says that there is no question of pity, no question of justice. It is ruthlessly different of, and there is no moral value. But Sri Aurobindo says the divine, when it is the divine will power, it can express pity and justice at a higher level when we become free from limitations. Otherwise, if there is a limitation, then there will be no pity. A limited person have no pity. In Sanskrit, it is said, "Khina janaha niskaruna bhavanti." Khina jana. If जदि कहार पाखरे पैसा नहीं का पाखरे धन नहीं का पाखरे खाइबा को नहीं से अन्य पैसा दे परिबनी धन दे परिबनी खाइबा दे परिबनी जब जने ट्रबल अछि नहीं परिबो नहीं जहाँ पाखरे अनेक धन अछि अनेक पेशेंस अछि अनेक खाइबा अछि से ही अन्य मान को दे परिबो. So that is the thing, in the divine, when somebody will live in the divinity, he has more, he is transcending to limitations, and that is why he will have pity, have justice. So divine will power is different from the egoistic will power. Then nature as an expression of the divine expresses morality in higher life forms. Nietzsche says that nature is not moral or immoral. It is just nature. It is the interpretation that makes it moral and immoral. But Sri Aurobindo says nature as an expression of the divine expresses morality in higher life forms like in human being and higher human beings. From such perspective of divine in nature, he finds, there is a mistake here, he finds the divine will and its gradual freedom that are proceeded from the divine and tries to express fully, breaking its environment and limitations. So nature express in the nature, man goes ahead when divinity descends in him and he going to approach the supermanhood. To contrast, Nietzsche says, life is a battle and the winner is the one not with goodness, but strength, not humility, but pride, not emotion, but intellect. So what Nietzsche thinks, Nietzsche's Superman is an egoist who has crushed his conscience. For him, sympathy, patience, diligence, humility, and friendliness do not make a person honorable. The virtues of courage, manliness, enterprise, and bravery were virtues of the Superman. The world will be right, and man will come to his own when the sense of lordship and power, mastery and strength will replace feelings such as pity, generosity, sympathy, and sacrifices. The race of Superman will rule, not love. I am repeating, the race of Superman will rule, not love. Why? What is here? Who exercises power? Who ruthlessly controls others? Who has no feelings, such pity, generosity, sympathy, and sacrifices? This is the Nietzsche's Superman, egoistic Superman. And I may say that we can put Ravana or Kansa in this depiction of Superman in Nietzsche's philosophy, because those Ravana, Kansa, they are just like fitting to the definitions, the descriptions, the depiction the Nietzsche has given for Superman. They don't have sympathy, patience, diligence, or humility. They have only the power, intellect, manliness, bravery. These are the virtues of Superman. So Nietzsche's Superman I may categorize as Ravana. I may symbolize with Ravana. I may identify with Ravana or Kansa. Or in Mahabharata, Duryodhana. In contrast to in the right side, the Sri Aurobindo's Superman is different. Sri Aurobindo's Superman will be like a Buddha, like a Krishna, who has pity, who has generosity, who has sympathy, and at the same time has bravery, manliness, and enterprise. Life is, and his life is a constant struggle of expression of divine, where not brute strength, but wisdom is the key. Like in Krishna's case, in Buddha's case. There is goodness in expression of divine in more of its expression. Therefore, according to Sri Aurobindo, a man becomes Superman when he rises above his limited bodily, vital and mental existence. In this state, he consciously feels the divine presence in his body, life and mind. I am repeating, in this state, he consciously feels the divine presence in his body, life and mind. He then identifies with humanity without nurturing any selfish motives, even without the motive of self-liberation, just like Krishna and Rama and Buddha. They have no selfish motives, but they have the well-being for all the humanity, all the species as required. So in one side, we can keep Krishna, Kansa, Ravana, or Duryodhana as Superman, as symbolizing, representing the Superman of Nijje, and in the other side, we can symbolize the Superman of Sri Aurobindo with Krishna, Buddha, Rama, like this. He consciously works. Who says? Sri Aurobindo says that his Superman, Sri Aurobindo Superman consciously works for the elevation of the human consciousness to the cosmic divine plane. Supermen are devoid of egoism, are above love and hatred, and are suffused with psychic goodwill for all. Aurobindo's Superman rises above the mental to the supramental consciousness. According to him, man thinks himself to be separate from God because he thinks through his mind. Why? Because mind makes the divisions, analysis, discriminations. That is why man thinks different. If he transcends his mental consciousness, he will find himself on a platform where the knowledge of God is manifest as intuitive and immediate knowledge, not as intellectual or philosophical knowledge. So this is the transcendence, this is the transformation. If he transcends his mental consciousness, he will find himself on a platform where the knowledge of God is manifest as intuitive and immediate knowledge, not as intellectual or philosophical knowledge. We have studied Brahman, about Brahman so many times, and studied that Brahman janati the Brahmeva bhavati. But this is the philosophical way. But intuitively it should be Brahmaya bhavati iti Brahman janati. Knowing is becoming Brahman. This is philosophical, but becoming Brahman is knowing Brahman. This is intuitive and spiritual. In contrasting these two concepts of Superman, we can safely say that Sri Aurobindo has been able to spiritualize the inhuman monster of Nishchay, whose aggressive self-determination is a manifestation of his power and will to conquer, overpower, and subjugate mankind for his own gains. The Superman of Sri Aurobindo is a divine being, and for him, the will of God to elevate man to a super level consciousness was supreme, and he works for the divine will to prevail. Sri Aurobindo said, now we have discussed so many things, but Sri Aurobindo said that the only utility of books and philosophies was not truly to enlighten the mind, but to bring it into silence so that it could passes to the experience and receive the direct inspiration. After reading this, I wanted to leave you in calm and for the experience of the calmness, and then what is I said as Superman in contrast with Nietzsche. Thanks to the participants, students, and audiences, my teachers, the organizer, and ICPR, and lovers of philosophy. Thank you. Over to Kalasbhai. Over to Kailas bhai.
Okay, thanks so much, Professor. Hello, hello. Am I audible?
Yes.
Am I audible?
Yes. Audible. You are audible.
Hello.
You are
Saroj sir,
audible.
am I audible?
Yes.
Yes. Thanks so much, Professor Sir. Today you have given a very hello.
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Thanks so much, Professor Saroj sir. Today you have Rabindra's mother from the talk we have both given by us the talk given by Professor Saroj Kankar. So the Supermanhood, Professor, the Supermanhood of Sri Aurobindo is a truth, is a realization, and Sri Aurobindo came to this world in order to announce this, in order to announce the manifestation of a new race and a new one. This is the race of supramental. And the mother also once said that Sri Aurobindo came to announce the creation of tomorrow, the coming of the supramental being. And this, as you say, the supermanhood. But how to be Godhead? And today, as we see that man is a mental being enslaved to light and matter. How to be a Superman? Because it is very difficult to transform from man to be a Superman. And you have reflected that man is a transitional being according to Sri Aurobindo. And he is not final. And he is going. And because he's going from the state of man to Superman, how it is possible? You have given different conditions to be a Superman, and you say to possess the Superman may be difficult. You have compared it to different with a different philosophical theory, and Sri Aurobindo, as you say, calls the Superman, the supermind, and the divine mind of knowledge or the supermind. And it is the power, the supermind is the power, the light of divine will, and it is the divine consciousness. Supermind is Superman. Therefore, to rise beyond mind is the condition, you say. And to be the Superman is to live the divine life. It is to be God, but the gods have the powers of God, the power of God in humanity. So, in entire talk, you have spoken the journey from man to Superman. So, it is not possible to speak in a few minutes or hours on the topic Superman, because it takes days and months and years to have a discussion on it, and it is very difficult from man to be a Superman. But simply here, the say it is a realization, it is truth, it is a journey. Thanks so much, Professor Kaur, for your beautiful talk, for your beautiful discussion and comparison of the Superman with other philosophical theory. Now, over to Pasha to moderate the questions session. Our student, Pasha Bisoi, there to moderate the question session. Over to Pasha.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us with this ICPS sponsored periodic lecture. I am Varsha Sui, first year student of Philosophy Department. I might be fortunate enough, and it's my pleasure to be the moderator of this session. Today, we have two excellent speakers with us. Let me give a hearty pranam to Professor Patitapaban sir and Dr. Saroj Kankar sir. Thank you for sharing a helpful and beneficial presentation with us. There is no question on chat box. It shows the excellence of our speaker. I request to all the viewers, please unmute yourself and ask question directly to our speakers. If anyone interested, then ask question directly to our speakers.
Hello.
Yes, sir.
Aurobindo's philosophy. Now, I have one direction in mind. We can bring the difference between will to power and will to surrender. And in the group of will to power, we can place both Nietzsche as well as Harari, because Harari wants man to become God. Okay, so it is also a type of cognitive revolution that Harari is trying to make, and that is why he can also be branded as can be grouped in Nietzsche's group. But on the other hand, the Aurobindo's philosophy is just a will to surrender. That means if I can surrender my ego, ahankar, to the God Shiva that Aurobindo uses, then I can become a Superman. So, what is my intention? My intention is to be a self-ruler and not to rule the world. But in Nietzsche, we find that Nietzsche's will to power wanted to rule the world. And similarly, Harari's explanations also similar to that extent, as far as I believe. So, if I can surrender myself, I can become a Superman. So, there may be many long versions of it, but surrender is most important. So, I think this is how we can summarize both the lectures. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Thankful to Ranjit sir. Actually, Sri Aurobindo incorporates different yogas, that Bhakti Yoga, Jnana Yoga, and Raja Yoga. So, surrender is most important actually. If somebody will go by the Bhakti Yoga.
Sir, Ranjit sir, कौन कहउछंती अनम्यूट करना है म्यूट करके कौन कहउछंती माने ही स्पीकिंग
No.
No, I have finished. I have just kept Harari and Nietzsche in one group.
that I understand.
And now you have to discuss on these things. Thank you.
That I understood. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. So Saroj bhai कहबे ना should I say something?
I was speaking that surrender is most important. If somebody will, it is the Bhakti Yoga is fitting to somebody. Somebody will start from Bhakti Yoga, then surrender is most important. And of course, Sri Aurobindo says that when the pinnacle comes, then Jnana Yoga and Karma Yoga all transforms to the Bhakti Yoga. So Bhakti or Prema becomes the first, become the last. If it will be the starting point for somebody, some people, it is also very good. And your classification is very fine, sir. Thank you, sir. Patitapaban.
Aurobindo's Superman is a self-ruler, and he never wants to conquer others. He just wants to conquer his own self.
Yes.
But you see, in this mechanical way of this cognitive revolution which Harari is trying to pose us before us, this is one narrative. Of course, we can bring the analogies how to define the species. But the thing is that we have to keep that in mind, that we want to be a self-ruler and not the ruler over others. We don't want to make our individuality on others. What brand value of ours on others. Thank you.
This is very good. Self-rulers is true, but when somebody becomes Superman, slowly his egoistic self, his limited self will be lost, and he will be living in the higher self, the divine self, and which is very larger. Thank you, sir.
Professor Saroj Kantagar, good afternoon.
Thank you.
I am Dr. Srinivasan from Madurai. See, the concept of Superman to Aurobindo studies is already there. Some centuries back, this was informed, compiled by Patanjali Maharishi in his Yoga Sutra. He was defining the Yama Niyamas. He says, Santosha Saucha Tapaswadhyaya Ishvara Pranidhanani. That means ultimately surrendered to God. He has already explained about it.
Yes.
So where is the point in say Aurobindo's, giving an effect for the same thing in a transformed manner? There is a difference. Supermind is Superman. This has been discussed at length by Patanjali Maharishi.
Yes.
What is your clarification on this, sir, please?
I accept, sir. I accept that in Sri, when studying Patanjali, we are going to the supramental level slowly, not only by this Yamani Yamas, but Yamani Yamas starting point, but by the meditation, the Samadhi. In the Samadhi, we get into it. And Sri Aurobindo accepts that. Sri Aurobindo is actually in the synthesis of yoga. He synthesizes the different types of yoga to go ahead. So to different people, different personalities, different things will suit, and they will start from there. And when they arrive at the last rung of the ladder, they will arrive at the Superman mode. He accepts Patanjali, he accepts the Vedanta, Sankhya Yoga, and he is a synthesizer of the spiritual practices that will lead to the divine realization. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
First of
I would please patitapaban sir, please respond on this topic and this question.
Yeah, so I think Saroj sir has done it, but let me tell you, because he talked about Harari, and the reason why I was using Harari and how it is distinct from Sri Aurobindo's view is that Harari has used all kind of scientific data, right? Scientific research, the most contemporary scientific research, and he's just showing that the process, how it is happening, and how human beings are shading their bodily features, and how they are excelling in their mental features, and how the consciousness, individual consciousness, is becoming, group consciousness, and from group consciousness it becomes consciousness as such. So this is what he is showing through all the data, all the scientific data. And many years back, now 2019 years comes, Beaumont years comes, and 1919 Life Divine comes. So 100 years back, exactly 100 years back, Sri Aurobindo was speculating that how human beings are going to enter to a domain where might be consciousness exists in all its bosom. Consciousness exists, and that consciousness, how does it exist? I'm not going to discuss. Harari has given its whole explanation, and in his own way, Sri Aurobindo also has spoken about the how this consciousness is going to presume, right? But one thing is very clear is that ultimately something that is consciousness, of course, that is going to exist, and ultimately what will happen, that all these material diversity or other kinds of forms will be seen as just appearance. So that is what I found interesting, the connection between Harari and Sri Aurobindo. But one thing is, what Harari is saying is that no, he is not exactly saying that it's about will to power. Sar was saying, but to last of his book, what he is saying, that look, the consciousness, and that he says infotech, the development of infotech, that is what is the idea of data science and everything, big data and all. So now what he is saying is that ultimately consciousness as such is going to rule. So no individual consciousness is going to be segregated. Okay, that is one kind of surrender also. So, and he says in his scientific term is that each individual is going to be a chip, microchip that transfers data. So in his own way, that everyone, each individual is going to lose its significance, and it will be only a simple microchip that transmits data, data to the super big data company. That is what his model. But idea is echoed by Sri Aurobindo that ultimately super consciousness reigns, and all these individual diversity segregations that they are going to be resolved in fact in super consciousness. That is interesting. Sri Aurobindo talks about. I think I should say that.
Don't you think then Harari wants to reduce human beings into machines, into take the case of robots, human robots? Because you see the development, the artificial intelligence and the robots, then robots will take over the human beings in the long run. Well, that's a scientific fiction that we are seeing, hearing, and all these things. But Aurobindo's consciousness aspect, it's a very different, it's a spiritual interpretation altogether. It has never to do with this. Yes, you said that 1 century has elapsed in between, and therefore maybe it may take in that way, that turn. All right, it is one interpretation, one perspective. Thank you.
No, even which Harari was talking about the consciousness, it's not that scientific consciousness, of course, right? So we have to understand that. What he says that ultimately what Sri Aurobindo also says about consciousness, super consciousness we are entering to. What is that? If we can depict the nature of that consciousness, is it really material? No. Is it really spiritual? No. So consciousness as such exists, and Harari also says that ultimately that exists, and each individual is just an echo of that, and that is exactly Sri Aurobindo's interpretation. That as an individual, we are just echo of the super consciousness that is playing within me, that is making all the drama, right? And I am as I am. It's just an echo, one echo of that super consciousness, and Harari also talks about that. But he talks in different language. That's difference. I think there is no difference in the grand design, but the difference is only in language.
Okay.
Thank you both speakers for beautiful responding. Then I want to promote sir to reflect your own views on both topics and ask questions.
Thank you, Lakshmi Priya. I am very happy that the students of Balugaon College, they performed very well.
They need a clap.
Giving, yes,
They need a great applause.
the way they introduced the speakers, the way they are speaking English, and the way they are moderating, that is wonderful. I think we don't see that in the universities. Anyway, and not only that, out of these three, perhaps all of them have secured positions in national opinion competition. That is a great thing. Now I shall speak something about the summary of both these talks, and I appreciate the last conclusion of Professor Das as to the response of the question of Dr. Ghosh. The very sensitive debate in philosophical discourses down the edges, that is the dualistic position of the existence of matter and consciousness. Many great philosophers have built their philosophical system on this issue. Whether matter comes first or consciousness comes first. This is a debate. And the other debate is which comes out of which. If matter, then consciousness comes out of matter. If consciousness, then matter has evolved out of consciousness. So such questions have been discussed in philosophy with no conclusion, because philosophy has no conclusion. Sri Aurobindo's philosophy has beautifully discussed this issue. Sri Aurobindo claims that matter and consciousness are not distinct to each other. Number one, nothing is distinct from anything. Therefore, his philosophy is called integral. Matter is not different from consciousness. Consciousness is not different from matter. Man is not different from animal. Man is not different from Superman. This difference is only appearance. So, therefore, the beauty of Sarabinda's philosophy is that he is speaking about integralism. Matter and consciousness, they are integral to each other. So, regarding the question which comes first, whether matter or consciousness, he is speaking about the involution and evolution, what Professor Das spoke very well. Involution is possible, evolution is possible only because of involution. That means the higher reality is already present in the lower, therefore the lower is capable of evolving to the higher reality. That means that is whatever is there in potential form, that only becomes actual. So the highest form of consciousness, that is also present in the lowest form of consciousness, that is called essence. That means consciousness is already present in matter, and matter is not an alien to consciousness. They are integral to each other. From this, we shall see at the conclusion, Professor Das said that human being is only an echo of that supreme consciousness. It is true. So here the question of a man not come. Man is to be an evolute in this space of evolution and involution. But man is such a species who can understand this process. It is not understood by other species like animals and plants. They can't understand the process of evolution and involution. So in the ladder of evolution of consciousness, man has occupied a place in the process of evolution, and man is of a particular level of consciousness where he can understand the very process of evolution and involution. That is the beauty of man as the best creature of the divine, and that is the possibility. Aurobindo spoke of different layers of consciousness by giving different names of mind. That higher mind, higher mind, illumined mind, intuitive mind, super mind. These are different minds which are very much reflected in a human being. So there is a combination of naturalism and human effort. Naturalism means nature. There is the cosmic evolution, and human effort means the moment man understands this cosmic evolution, the natural relation between two opposite things, matter and apparent opposite things, they are not really opposite in Aurobindo philosophy. They are identical, they are integral to each other, they are the different forms of manifestations only. So when man tries to understand these oppositely, this dual process of evolution and involution, there starts human effort. That is called yoga. That is called, therefore his philosophy is called integral yoga. It is not bhakti yoga or jnana yoga. He synthesized all, as Professor Kara said, that is the synthesis of all yogas, and that yoga is called the integral yoga, and that is the part of human effort. That when I know something, suppose I know the 6 feet distance in the distance, then after crossing that, I can see other 6 feet distance. So, if I am conscious of the cosmic phenomena, cosmic reality, cosmic limitations, then my the effort of a personal effort starts. That I become evolved one step by step. I belong to different levels levels of consciousness. Therefore, on the cosmic stance, Sri Aurobindo claims the next generation will be the generation of consciousness. And from the humanistic standpoint, it can be said that the next possibility of man is Superman. So, it is not a contest between consciousness and matter, that consciousness rules over matter. No, matter and consciousness both are in together. There is consciousness in matter and there is also matter in consciousness, though they appear different to the scientific eye. In the scientific laboratory, we see the difference between matter and consciousness, and we fail to explain one by other. But in the philosophy of Sri Aurobindo, it is very much well explained that matter can be explained by consciousness can be explained by matter, and that has been explained through the philosophy of involution and evolution. So we are different human beings, we have different levels of understanding, we have different types of minds, therefore we have different levels of realization of the truth. Therefore, supermind is truth consciousness. Supermind means truth consciousness. That means gradually we are becoming aware of the truth. In the stage of overmind, our truth consciousness is something different. In the stage of illumined mind, our truth consciousness is something different. But the truth as such, that is transparent to us in the level of supermind. So supermind is otherwise called truth consciousness. So that is our possibility, that is our future. Patitapaban sir asked a very beautiful question in the beginning: what shall you become after 10 years? I am not sure what I shall become after 10 years, but my generation, after 100 years or many years, they will become pure consciousness. They will become superminds. They will have best realization of the truth. I appreciate both the speakers. This was very successful discussion and very enlightening and very touching also. They did not pretend to speak, they spoke from their heart and mind, and it was very interesting. Thank you all.
Thank you, Balu sir, for your beautiful observation. Thanks for encouraging us, motivating us, and help us learn. What we ask for, so thank you very much, sir. I now I want to request Dr. I want to request K. Naran sir for your solving your observations and ask questions to our speaker.
Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Priya Ghatwali, and very good afternoon, everybody. Well, it was a nice talk. Well, I listened to Professor Patitapaban. Well, I could not listen to because to Dr. Saroj sir because I had a class myself and then later joined, but I could not listen to his lecture. But about Patitapaban sir's lecture, it was wonderful because he tried to draw a parallel between the current that we see in the Indian trend, making a reference to Sri Aurobindo and the Western tradition as it goes. And the beautiful part of his lecture is finding the connectivity, finding the connection, finding the parallel between the two. So, the very good take from his lecture is, well, we had a model of Aurobindo of evolution and matter evolving, and there is as a continuous process, evolution and evolution continuously be there. But the very best part of his presentation is the reference to Harari, wherein he brought in that a similar trend of idea has been propagated in the West. Maybe the Indian influence, maybe there I don't know. But the good take again is that over a period of time, that matter will slowly get disfied
say, will tend to be negated, or matter will continuously become, say, irrelevant, and so there would be an outgrowth, or there would be an evolution of the mental. So the mental gets superiority, and somehow the physical gets weakened, and that is trying to prove that over the period of years, when from the animal structures which were so strong with a weak mind, now we have spaces where the body is slowly turning out to be weak and the mind is evolving. So that's the great take from his lecture. That's a great understanding and a great parallel that he has drawn. So I should thank him for bringing that information to all of us. And this is how we should learn. And I really thank him for that. And went to Saroj sir because I could not attend his lecture. I have nothing to say. So it's a very good learning for me from Dr. Patitapaban. I should thank for this. And one more thing, listening to Professor Pramod Das, one assertion comes to my mind. When Mother Srima, she says that I exist not without him, and he is unmanifest without me. I repeat, I exist not without him, and he is unmanifest without me. So these very lines seem to suggest that the process of evolution and involution is a continuous process, and we don't know how long this process will continue. But somehow, if we go by the line divine, what Sri Aurobindo has talked about, and the Homer years that Harare is speaking of, well, this evolution and involution is a continuous process, and we never know when this is going to take the climax to see consciousness all around. But at the same time, as Professor Das could point out, that we cannot negate, we cannot reset the material. Somehow, this material has to be there in order to realize that consciousness. But you see, even the assertion of the mother somehow speaks of, even though we have the highest level of consciousness, we cannot deny the matter, because that unmanifest is made manifest through the matter, through the bodies, through the individual bodies. So individual bodies have to be there, So my position is, well, there is an evolution of the mental, both in Harare and in Sri Aurobindo, but at the same time, the matter, say the individual bodies, and through the individual bodies, that consciousness has to be made explicit. So this is my observation. Maybe I may be wrong. Dr. Patitapaban, please, still more clarification on this. And I really thank you for drawing the parallel between the two thoughts. Thank you so much.
Hello. Before Professor Patitapaban replies, I have one question in my mind that if we take Harari seriously, then we can, what he says that we can extend not only from the cognitive revolution, we can extend it to the creation of artificial life. Now, if that be the case, can it be taken as a teleological situation as we compare Harari with Sri Aurobindo's teleology? So, teleology of these three thinkers definitely differ as far as I believe. How do you react to this? Thank you.
Now I want to request our both speakers to respond again.
Okay, should I, yeah. So if I understand,
it is to you.
Yeah, if I understand that you are asking for the difference of teleology they were talking about, right? And I should say, yeah, they exactly there. Thank you for this question, and you marked well that Harari belongs to the scientific evolution model. He belongs to that, but he somehow he extends. But the teleology he forecast is that there is no teleology. So this is what I should say. But what he exactly says, and I find out extract from everything he writes as a philosopher, I extracts because he belongs to that scientific community with all the representation of data and resources. He simply says that the consciousness, the march of consciousness moves in that direction where matter is going to be ridiculed and consciousness is going to be freed, completely freed. So this is what he is saying. This is happening. Why it is happening, he doesn't say. He is silent. He is silent to that. And therefore we can say that he belongs to that teleology also, scientific teleology, that there is no teleology. Okay. But after the last of his, there is another book I have mentioned, might be, that 21st Lessons for 21st Century. He has written that book also. After Homo Deus, he has published that book, 21st Lessons for 21st Century, where he poses questions out of these sapiens and Homo Deus. He poses questions, simple questions. Then what is going to happen? And he just leaves it to the philosophers, of course, to think over that if this is the process, where is the purpose? What is the movement? So he just leaves it. And I just extract, as a philosopher, I extract it from him that look, what he is saying, ultimately he is also saying that there is an higher order without which nothing can. And there perhaps they are meeting together, but he is silent about it. I should say that. He is silent about it. I interpret out of his writings, this is my reading, that somehow he assumes that there is a purpose of this movement of consciousness. And about the matter, yeah, matter is going to stay, definitely, but the form is going to change. Initially, we were talking about gas. Whenever we go to a shop to buy something, we have to take some gas or some coins out of metal or some paper. Now we are going to the shop having a card with a plastic material with a chip, small chip that is made of silicon. So the forms are going to be changed, but matter is going to exist, different kinds of metals. Now, once upon a time, iron was prominent, and before that, gold was prominent. Then comes copper was prominent. Once upon a time, then comes steel was prominent. Now plastic is prominent. Now silicon is prominent. We don't know what type of evolution is going to happen in material world also. Might be some other matter comes after that, after silicon. Now the most important matter is silicon, because that is what is happening in Silicon Valley. The whole world is going to be ruined by that silicon only. So the most important matter now is silicon. Might be in the next evolution, matter is going to be changed, and some other kind of delicate matter is going to come. No one knows. Matter is going to come. Different kinds of matter will be there, but the modes of their interaction with consciousness is going to completely change. Today we have no small chips injected to our mind, and that is going to influence our consciousness. So we are saying that consciousness was pure, consciousness was something different, but now a matter that is going to directly influence the nature and structure of our consciousness. And tomorrow might be, it will happen that there will be no difference between consciousness and matter as such. So no one knows, and Harari also says no one knows. But there, of course, the importance of Sri Aurobindo, that is the process, the next level of process, where supermind will come. And what will that structure? No one knows. Only seers can know. We simply can predict. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Professor Das. Let us hope that we may not be alive by then. In our generation, you will find some consciousness chips after some 25 years or 30 years like that.
But this will continue. This will continue. But thank you, Professor Ranjit Ghosh sir, for this important question. But I think.
Yes, please tell.
Yeah, I think Harari is a very popular writer, and many people might be thinking that this is something ridiculing philosophy. But I find very significant philosophical thread in the books. Therefore, I presented. So I may be excused if I have crossed the limit.
No. You have spoken very nicely. Carry on with your mission. Thank you, Professor.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, both speakers and all the viewers, for your excellent observations and reviews.
should we leave now or something? Yeah.
ବର୍ଷା hello sir ଆପଣଙ୍କର ଶୁଭୁନି sir
ଏବେ ଶୁଭିଲା
ବର୍ଷା is there any question no then Saroj sir would you want to respond on it
No,
Saroj sir
not required.
would you want to respond on it
Not required.
Okay thanks so much sir so today we have a very beautiful session and we all have been benefited by the talks of Professor Das and Professor Kaur. And today, the observations made by Ranjit Shah, Dr. Om Naran Rao sir, Pramod sir, Srinivasan sir, are very illuminating, and their observation have also motivated us today. Whatever they have spoken, they are very much benefiting to our students also. I don't want to speak much more on it. We simply bow down before the senior professors like Professor Bose and others, Professor Srinivasan, those have encouraged us, those have guided us, and those have illuminated us through their observation, through their understanding in different philosophical theories, and we simply extend our thanks and gratitude to both the speakers to be connected with us, to accept our invitation, and we have two felicitations for Professor Kaur and Professor Das, and on physical mode, we will hand over it to Professor Das and Professor Kaur in their own universities that is offered by our students, and on every seminar, we offer a token of love in form of felicitation to the speakers, and we will reach both the speakers in their own universities and hand over the felicitation certificate to both the speakers. Thanks so much. Now I request our faculty member Prakash to propose a vote of thanks.
Sir, I think we are very much moved by the participation of your students. They are wonderful. They are just wonderful. Thank you for your training and motivation.
Pramod sir has motivated them, they have inspired them, and he has guided them to participate in different webinars. So Pramod sir has a prominent role in building the students to participate in such seminars.
Thank you, Pramod sir. It really means
actually credit goes to the philosophy family because it has brought philosophy to the platform and limelight, and so gradually more and more people are entering into our fold.
That's true. But it's wonderful to see that students are increasing. That's excelling in that way. That is really very beautiful to see. Thank you, sir.
And they always tell that please arrange more number of webinars so that we will participate. We will give the vote of thanks, we will give the introduction guest, we will moderate. So we are giving chances to them for their future career. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
I request Prakash to propose a vote of thanks. Prakash.
Thank you, sir. Good afternoon to everyone. It's my proud privilege to propose the vote of thanks and gratitude to the esteemed speakers and viewers of today's program. Today is the second ICPR sponsored periodical lecture on the philosophy of Sri Aurobindo, organized by Department of Philosophy, Balugaon College. I extend my gratitude to Honorable Principal Professor Vinoti Manjay Raut Madam, distinguished speakers Professor Patitapaban Das sir, Professor Saroj sir, respected Head of Department Dr. Korai sir, all the participants, sir, madam, and my dear students, be connecting with the program. I would like to express my sincere gratitude to Honorable Guest Professor Patitapaban Das sir, taking on the story of our species, Sri Aurobindo's view. I extend my hearty thanks to Dr. Saroj Kanta sir, He addressed on the Aurobindo on Superman. I would like to a special thanks to Dr. Forrest sir, who is a person behind the success of this program. My deep sense of thanks and appreciation goes to participants like Professor Ranjit Ghosh sir, Dr. K. Narayan sir, Dr. Vijay Kumar Naik sir, Dr. Pramod Kumar Das sir, Dr. Srinivasam Krishnamurthy sir, Dr. S. Gupta sir, and all others who are connecting with us. Last but not the least, let me thanks to Shah for recording and telecasting this webinar. I thanks to Jyoti, Lakshmipriya, Basa for their involvement in introducing the guest, moderate the question and session, and helping the technical program. So thank you so much, everyone. Thank you, sir.
Okay.
Thanks so much, Prakash, for beautifully proposing the vote of thanks for the honor of the guests and the peers. So today we have a very beautiful session, and Professor Saroj sir and Professor Patitapaban sir has made this program successful and meaningful, and we are really grateful. We offer a gratitude to both the speakers and Ranjit sir and all other senior professors and teachers and students who are connected with us across the country. So once again, I offer my gratitude to all the people, to all the peers connected with this ICPR sponsored periodic lecture, and I must offer my gratitude to Saroj sir, who is the program officer ICPR and who has a very important role in sponsoring ICPR periodic grant to the college and for a continuous for so many years. Thanks so much, Dr. Bakbar.
On behalf of all, I must thank Kailash Marana Bhai for organizing this with so much of faith and prosperity. Should come to you. Thank you.
Okay, thanks so much, Saroj. Now it's time to wind up the session.
Thank you. Namaskar.
And you have recorded it also. Okay, my gratitude to you for recording the entire session.